Welcome to Lesson 8 on text files. In this lesson, I am going to present a solution to you to the activity that was given in Lesson 7. So here's the first activity that I gave you for homework, activity 1.1. In this activity, you had to work with delimiters, string handling, and using rich edits to neatly align the data in tabbed columns. You were required to read from the text file and test if the file exists. You also had to use delimiters to extract the relevant field of each line and then calculate and display the total and the average. Let's look at the next activity that I gave you. In this activity, you had to use delimiters to extract the relevant field on each line and then search through the country names. You had to do a search technique, search through the country names for the country India, and then display the value associated with it. Both these techniques was reading from a text file. So let's go and see what the code is going to look like. So in that particular activity, I gave you to find the total developers worldwide and to find the average, to display the total and display the average. So let's go and take a look at what the code will look like. So again, I'm reading from a text file. So I created T file, data type text file. I'm reading each line of text from the file. I've created a variable called sLine. Again, I'm separating the data into the country name and the number of developers. So I've created variables for that. I'm finding the position of the comma in the file. I'm finding the position of the comma in each line of the text file. I created a variable called total. I created a variable called iCount to keep track of the number of lines of text. And there's my variable daverage to calculate the average. Again, I'm checking if the file exists. If it does not exist, I'm displaying an error message and exiting the program. Clear your red output. Assign T file to statistics.txt. Remember that you could use a relative path in Delphi 10.3. I'm resetting my file in read mode so I can read from the file. It takes the file pointer to the beginning of the file. I've created two variables, iTotal and iCount, and initialized it to 0. I'm running my while loop while not EOF of T file do begin, and read line, I'm reading each line of text from the text file. I'm storing it in a variable called sLine, and now I can manipulate sLine using string functions and procedures. Created a variable called iPause, and I'm finding the position of the comma in sLine. Remember, pause returns the position of the search character substring as data type integer. I'm then using the copy function, and using copy, I'm extracting part of a given string. In this instance, I want to extract the name of the country. And it's stored in the variable called sLine. So from sLine, starting at position 1, I want to copy from position 1, and I want to take iPause -1 characters. I'm deleting from sLine, start at position 1, and delete up until the position of the comma. I then take the balance of the line, and I'm storing it in a variable called inumdevs. So here I'm finding the total number of developers worldwide by saying iTotal is assigned iTotal plus the number of developers. I have to increment my counter because now I need to go back. If it's not the end of the file, I can then read the next line. Alternatively, I could say iCount is assigned iCount plus 1. At the end of my at the end of my while loop, out of the while loop, I can find the average, and the average is assigned the total divided by the number of lines in the text file. So iCount is going to keep track of the number of lines in the text file. I then display the total in that line of code, and then I display the average. I formatted the average using FF number, and do not forget at the end you have to close your file. Let's run this program. Let's see how it works. So when I click on total developers, it's going to give me total and the average. So let's look at activity 3 that I gave you. And in activity 3, we had to do a search technique. We had to search through the text file, look for the country name India, and display the number of developers in India. So let's see how we're going to search through the file. Again, my variables that I've created: tfile, data type text file, sline to store each line, country to store the name of the country, inumdevs again to store the number of developers, pos to keep track of the position of the comma, and I've created a Boolean variable called bflag and data type Boolean. Now, why I need to create a Boolean variable? Because if it is found, the Boolean variable changes to true. When it is found, the Boolean variable will then change to true. So let's look at the lines of code that I've created. I first need to check again if the file does not exist. If it does not exist, I display an error message and I terminate my program. I could use application.terminate or exit. If the file exists, I come into this line of code, I clear the rich edit, I assign my file, my logical to my physical file, and I reset tfile to prepare the file in read mode. Importantly, I create my Boolean variable and I initialize it to false. I start from a premise that I have not started searching, I have not found it. So hence, I will declare the variable bflag and initialize it to false. I run my loop because I've got many lines of text in the text file, while not EOF of tfile do, and I begin reading from the file. Using readline, I read from memory into sline. Sline now has the first line of the text file. I then manipulate the first line. Using pos, find the position of the comma in sline. Using copy from sline, start at position 1 and take ipos -1 characters. I then delete, starting from sline. I delete from sline, starting at position 1, and I take ipos characters. I then take the balance of the line and I store it in my variable called inumdevs. So this was the different part of the program in activity 3, where the question asked you, check if the country name equals India. It was a very simple search technique. Okay, check if the country name equals India. If it is equal to India, my Boolean variable flag changes to true. It's then initialized to true. I then display the name of the country and the number of developers. Very, very simple question. Close my file. At the end and out of your while loop. This is your while loop. Out of the while loop, begin and end. Out of your while loop, I check if the value of flag is still equal to false. I display an error message, S country was not found. Let's take a look at how this program is going to work. Run it. Okay, and I click on the search button and it tells you India has 529,760 developers. I'm now going to end my lesson there. Thank you for listening, guys. Stay motivated, stay inspired, and keep an eye on my next activity.